Hi there, and welcome to day 5 of the Find Your Focus course. And today we're going to talk about energy. So, when it comes to your energy peaks, the first thing to do is to figure out when you have them. And you'll find that as you pay attention, you'll start to see that usually this will be certain moments of the day. And maybe you already know this. Maybe you know that in the morning you always feel more energetic. You more easily get things done. For other people, it's in the evening. Some people have 2 peaks, one in the morning, one in the late afternoon is very common. And then once you notice, the second thing is to defend them. You have to realize how valuable these energy peaks are. And so whatever requires less energy should not be planned on these peaks, and you should go really extreme in defending them. So whether that means like blocking them in your calendar or just simply telling people no, you have to get comfortable with that. Then the third thing is to spend them wisely, because even if you've blocked the time and you know when it is, if you then just start checking your email or going through Facebook, then of course, then you're wasting away this valuable peak. When you're just starting out with this, you might want to, a lot of to-do programs allow you to do this. To-do list programs is to add tags to them, so you could even go as far and say, okay, this is a high energy task, this is a low energy task, and then filter out in that way. And then the fourth point, and we'll look at more detail, and we'll look in more detail at that a few slides further up, is to milk these moments. And with that I mean not only spend them wisely, but really, really make the most of them. As with the peaks, we have certain times in the day when we have less energy, when we feel less energetic, and to know when this is can be very useful. And then the second step is, once you know that, is to prepare for that. So in a similar way, don't, if you have a complicated task or a complicated meeting or whatever, don't book it in a time that you know is one of your energy valleys. And then once you know that, the third thing is to hack or accept them. So and the hacking we'll look at is not something you can do all the time, but there are ways. If you have to get through an energy valley, there are ways to kind of hack it, and also how can you make the most of them. And but the flip side of that is also to accept them. So if you know you have less energy, for example just after lunch, which is very common, then don't try to power through that, but instead go with it, and then use that time to do something that requires less energy. When you're in an energy peak, I try to have a longer focus session, because you have more energy, so you can sustain your concentration for longer. The longer you can sustain your concentration, at least up to a maximum of about 60 to 90 minutes, the more chance you have of getting into that state of flow that we also talked about yesterday. For me, I know that in my mornings I have the most energy. Those are my energy peaks. So what I'll do in the mornings is I'll go for a 60 or sometimes even a 90-minute focus session. And that's super valuable, because that means you get into a state of flow, and then you're just going and you're getting so much done. But then on the flip side, when you're in an energy valley, you should do the opposite. So you should make your session shorter. And part of this is psychological, because if you start a 60 or a 90-minute session, but you're already low on energy, you're just going to feel really demotivated, because it's going to seem like the timer or this progress bar is just taking forever, and so you will just not make it, and you'll fail, and you'll feel even worse. But if you have these shorter sessions, they're much more doable, and so you can more easily stay in this rhythm. So when it comes to milking the peak, I have a few tips for you. The first, of course, is obvious. We've talked about it in day 3, but I want to remind you again, like really, really during your peaks, you should really block all distractions, kill them, destroy them. They need to be gone. The second one is, and this is a funny one, is napping. And it's not that in your peak you should nap, but what I do, but of course this is different for everybody, but I notice that after I've slept, that's one of the reasons why in the morning I have a peak, because I've slept, I'm very fresh, I have a lot of energy. So sometimes I nap in the afternoon just after lunch, because after my nap it will be a little bit like I have another morning. If you're having a peak and then at the end or towards halfway your peak you take some coffee, or at the beginning of it you have to experiment with that, you can really extend your peak a little bit, but then of course after that you'll probably have a bigger collapse, but for some people that works well. If I wake up earlier, I still have that peak the whole morning. So if I wake up at 5, for example, I will still until 10 or 11 be very productive. So by waking up earlier, I'm actually extending that morning peak. And I also know people who have that the other way around, who are really more night owls. And for them, it's the other way around. If they go to bed later, they can also extend that peak And the last one is solitude. I find that if you really want to maximize your peaks, it helps to be completely alone, no distractions. It has to do with that, but also to be, in an environment where nobody can interrupt you, where there's no input from the outside whatsoever. I find that's when you can really also maximize your peak. Now, the opposite of peak milking is, of course, valley hacking. Like, how do you get through those valleys, to those moments when you have very low energy? Alternating between standing and sitting is a very nice way of getting through your low energy moments. Napping is a good one. I mean, if you have low energy, why would you not just go for a nap? Another way to do it, of course, is to have a coffee. I don't necessarily recommend it, because if you take a coffee, you're going to have a valley a while later. So it always kind of gets back to you in my experience. But if you really have to get through a low energy moment, then of course coffee can be helpful, or even a Red Bull or something like that. Using your low energy moment for something that will give you more energy later is of course a great way to get through that. And a walk is similar, but it's a bit more passive. But that's a good way if you're just a bit stuck, you feel low energy, just go for a 10-15 minute walk outside, ideally in the nature. And then that will usually also give you a lot of inspiration, will replenish your energy, and then you're ready to go back again. One other thing to ask yourself when it comes to energy is, is it really your energy or is it something else? And actually, what is causing it? So there's, here are a few reasons that to keep in mind that could be causing low energy. So health and food and sleep really affect your energy levels. But there's two other factors, which are stress and motivation, that might give you the impression that you have low energy, or that you just can't, you feel that you can't get anything done, but your body might actually be fine. So in that sense, it's not really energy, it's more something that's in your head that you need to deal with, that gets in the way of you being able to work at peak performance. So that's it for today, and tomorrow we're back and we're going to talk about moving and your environment.